Welcome, guys. Welcome live on the Inside Line F1 podcast. Let's dissect a very intense race in a very short period of time. That was crazy. Kunal and I were on the official Hindi Formula One broadcast for Fan Code, trying to make sense of what was going on there. And what a chess match, Kunal. What a chess match. And you feel that a chess match was won by a lucky person just on the right place at the right time on the entire chessboard.
Absolutely. I would have loved to get Gukesh, who's the Indian world chess champion, his perspective on what actually happened with the race strategy at the Hungarian Grand Prix. There was a lot of strategic chaos. There were drivers pitting, there was Fernando Alonso holding people up, and there was just, I think, Fernando Alonso, we'll talk about him, about how he held up people and destroyed so many people's races. But yes, I think the lucky driver won. I also don't think that you and I got lucky yesterday when we predicted this very scenario, Samuel, on the Inside Line F1 podcast. We said this is what could happen. Leclerc leads. The lead McLaren, which we all knew at that time would be Piastri because he was starting second, would go chasing Leclerc, and McLaren would run an alternate strategy with Lando Norris. You asked a question: will McLaren be fair, or will they actually let the drivers race? Will they prioritize team harmony, or will they prioritize the drivers just battling it out themselves? What do you think happened there?
I think they made a decision, and they made a decision that they've made every time, including in Belgium last week as well, which is we will give priority to the lead driver to go ahead and try the race win, and the second driver can drive the alternate. And this time, Kunal, the alternate worked. It was cool in Belgium, tire degradation was not as bad, and importantly, it took a lot for you to overtake. You needed to be significantly faster. I heard before the race it was 1 second and Piastri just couldn't pass. I think both the strategies did converge at a point, if you really have to take a look at it. So there wasn't an obvious better or worse one, but clearly overtaking is so hard, and Oscar just couldn't get it done, which I don't blame him for. But wow, like that for Lando, especially considering the fact that he was two positions down on where he started in the opening stint, is crazy. It's blackjack. It's a great piece of luck. Just be there on the table long enough, and sometime the cards might work in your favor.
It might. And you know what you just said about Lando, and this is why I think this is his second race win with luck as a major factor. Happened in Silverstone. Oscar Piastri leading under safety car restart got penalized for something I can't remember any driver being penalized for in recent times. And recent times, I mean like maybe 15 years in history of Formula One,
Yeah.
maybe 20 if I literally scratch my heads a little too much. Okay. So he lost out positions to George Russell. He lost out positions to Fernando Alonso. He had to claw it back. He was lucky he could overtake Fernando Alonso, but that was also the pace differential. That was also Fernando Alonso not wanting to battle Lando Norris because Alonso destroyed Verstappen's strategy, destroyed Hamilton's strategy, destroyed every single person's strategy by just going slow. Again, another scenario we predicted. We discussed this. It's Monaco without the walls. Could you run the Monaco strategy? What is the Monaco strategy? Slow down so much that all your rivals behind you, if they pit into traffic. And that happened to every single one of them. Max Verstappen was complaining, saying, "You guys just pit me in so much of traffic." So Fernando Alonso was the key peg. Again, we'll talk about him as time comes. But Lando was lucky and smart enough to overtake Alonso, which is who's anywhere difficult cookie to overtake anywhere in the world, even more so at the Hungaroring. Alonso decided to not battle Lando. He got lucky there. Okay. And then it was just a matter of waiting because then he knew he would go longer. He knew he would get the option to run the one stopper. He knew the one stopper is a lot that people would consider in cooler conditions, checking tire degradation data as well. And he was actually on the correct strategy, Somil. Unfortunately for Oscar Piastri, and this is where my Twitter is going abuzz because I said he's a bloody lucky bloke. Second victory based on luck in 2025. People are going crazy at me. They think I'm biased, but I'll put it this way. Oscar Piastri did not put a single foot wrong all weekend long again, but he couldn't win this race. It was all down to, like you said, right place, right time for Lando Norris.
Well, but a win's a win.
A
A
win's a
win's
win.
a win.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
again, if
I,
we
I
just
wonder. Yeah, exactly. That point. But I wonder. I wonder if Oscar could have done anything different, because we're just following conventional logic, and that is what McLaren have also set out. They've set out a clear logic and a decision-making process for what would happen, and according to that process, everything happened correctly. It just so happened that the person with priority on track lost, which, well, could have happened in Belgium, but it didn't exactly happen that way. Lando with the one stop, it just didn't work out to work as good as it did today. He still tried, but it didn't work out. So I think the same process has given us two different outcomes in the space of 2 weeks. And that, I'd say, is crazy.
Yes, I've got my race engineer from minus 10 hours, exoteric, saying, guys, your volume is a bit too low. I've adjusted my volume settings. Hope that's better. But thank you for telling us this. The challenge with live streams, it is so difficult to pinpoint, because for the F1 broadcast that we did with fan code, everything worked fine. It's the same settings we use on Riverside, and then suddenly the volume's all over the place. So Somil is, of course, aggressively changing his settings, just as Charles Leclerc refused to do so in Spa in the wet. But yeah, I still hold what I'm saying, that he was lucky. And what happened at Lando Norris's start, we must point out, the starters on the right side actually lost out on positions. That's what Gabriel Bortoleto was told. That's what Lance Stroll was told as well. But all in all, again, there was a good mix of strategy and
Yep.
racing that happened. And when I say racing, I don't mean overtakes. I mean drivers trying to overtake one another and actually engaging in wheel to wheel battles. And let's remember, the final race result is not out yet. Max Verstappen under investigation post race for his move on Lewis Hamilton at turn 4. Yuki Tsunoda under investigation for his move on Nico Hulkenberg at turn 1. So both the Red Bull drivers could face some sort of penalties, if at all, post race, Samuel.
Yeah, it was an annoying day to be a Red Bull racing driver. So much went wrong for them. And yeah, a very, very tough outing overall for them. But there's also been a lot of chopping and changing below the McLaren drivers. We've discussed how Lando has made it happen. And sure, there were a couple of mistakes, but generally very good. What is interesting is a mystery issue with Charles Leclerc costing him the race win. It's always a mystery issue with Ferrari. It's always a mystery, right? I think the best way to dodge criticism is to make something a mystery so that nobody can sort of poke at it and find out the truth. But whatever it was, he lost a lot of time and he was right there. Was it strategy that was wrong or just raw pace?
So the mystery got solved post race, because Leclerc actually said in the race, in the cockpit, he did not have full information. He thought that they gave him an aggressive front wing setting at the pit stop, but actually he was facing chassis issues from lap 40 onwards, and that's what curbed his competitiveness in the second stint. That's what lost him the podium. That's what added to his already worst poles to win rate that he hosts in his career in Formula One. So yes, unfortunate times for Ferrari, but I think otherwise they really called the shots right, despite knowing that McLaren were chasing them with two different cars on two different strategy. Do you think though
Hmm.
Lando Norris could have been overtaken by Charles Leclerc had it not been for that issue?
I don't know. Why do we always play this game of what if, or could it have been something different with Ferrari? Why do we do this again? Like,
Okay,
I don't
give me
know.
an answer.
Well, I don't care. It just didn't happen. It didn't happen, and that's the sad part. What do I do thinking of could it have happened when it just didn't happen? And I know it's an angry Ferrari fan in me speaking here, but like, seriously, it's another win lost.
It's another win lost, and this time to chassis issues. And there's always newer ways or newer issues that Ferrari keeps finding out. Just as today we realized that gravel on track can actually hurt a driver on their hand, which is usually in the cockpit while driving. That happened to Isaac Hadjar early in the race as well. But Isaac Hadjar finished 11th, 8 tenths off Antonelli in 10th, and he was livid. Okay, Exoteric is saying, give me an answer. I will give that answer. I think Leclerc could have overtaken Lando Norris because Leclerc actually had lower downforce. And I think one of the reasons why Piastri could not overtake Lando is because they pretty much had the same wing settings, which meant that they were just about hitting the same amount of pace. And I think the cars were too evenly matched, just as they should be, since they are racing for the same team, Somal.
Yeah, and that eventually became the issue. Though no overtaking was possible at the end. Well, for some, because George Russell got past Charles Leclerc, and that for me was a highlight moment. And you could sense it was one of those moments where you can feel the sand slipping out of Leclerc's hand. There's not much he can do about it. And the way he defended, I felt was a bit desperate. I haven't watched the replays yet. I'm not a racing driver, nor I am a steward, so please do not count my judgment to be the final absolute one. But I thought that was moving under braking, and that looked very dangerous to me, Kunal. Like,
Yeah, I think it was just exasperation. It was just disappointment. It was just frustration in the cockpit that made Charles Leclerc drive like, if I'm overstepping this, drive like Max Verstappen, if I can call it that, in defense, because he did make a lot of late moves. He knew that it was probably over the edge. Isn't he still under investigation for erratic driving? I believe that is
I think
also,
so, yeah.
yes. So that is also something that will be investigated post race. But yeah, I think it was just down to the fact that he knew he could have had the podium. He knew he could have chased Lando Norris for that win, but instead he had to settle for fourth place, which was very disappointing. But if you're a Ferrari
As
fan, you've
usual.
had much more disappointment in life than anyone else. And yes, Exoteric says desperate is probably the right word when it comes to describing Leclerc's defensive moves against George Russell in the race today, Somal. What else have we got next?
Uh, we have got a bit of changing in the Constructors' World Championship because Aston Martin, as a result of their great points, I think they scored 16 points today. They've jumped up ahead of Racing Bulls and Kick Sauber with 36 plus 16. That would now be 52.
52.
Kick Sauber got 8 points to Bortoletto, but that would be 51 for them. So, in spite of having a great race, Kick Sauber have fallen down from P6 to P7, which shows you how competitive it is. And Fernando Alonso, we can say his strategy worked. Well, it worked for him and his team. But who cares about the others?
I think that was fantastic. They slowed the pace of the midfield down. Remember, they're not battling the top three teams or top four teams. Williams was anyway out of the equation, so in this case, it was the top three teams. They slowed the midfield down. Then, when everyone bunched up, there was Lawson, there was Portoletto, all waiting to see what Alonso would do. Luckily, uh, Aston Martin had Lance Stroll in the mix. They pitted Lance Stroll so that they could force Bortoletto and Lawson into pitting. And they pitted, and then Fernando Alonso could pit and still come out in the same position that he could have or he would have come out at. So I think, fantastic play by Aston Martin as a team altogether, because they brought a front wing upgrade, and they brought that upgrade. Both the drivers made it work, which is also, can we give a clap? We should give them a clap.
Yep. Yep.
My former team, pretty much for it. And if y'all want to know, very easy to see, how many laps they all did, because Fernando Alonso pitted. He did 31 laps on the hard tire, but before that, wow, my screenshot has stopped showing me what was the tire that he ran previously. But anyway,
Wasn't he on a
yes,
medium
he
for
was
the
on the
longest
medium.
time?
Yes. So what happened there was, uh, Stroll pitted first on lap 36. That put Bortoletto to pit on lap 40. So they tried to go out as long as they could. Alonso pitted on lap 39. Okay. And then Lawson also pitted on lap 40. So actually, it was the overcut that worked for them in this case. And again, I'm loving watching the rookies this year. Yes, I think Bortoletto is literally the class of all the rookies. I would
Yeah.
count Isaac Hartjar. I would count Behrman. I would also count Liam Lawson as one of those rookies out there. Exoteric is also saying, can we just give a clap to Gabriel Borto? Just so proud of him.
We
Yes, there we
should.
go.
We should. We should.
Fantastic.
No, he's been
Yeah.
incredible.
Yes.
And 8 points for him today. Again, that is crazy. If I'm not mistaken, Bortoletto now has 3 points finishes in the last four races,
Yes, that is correct.
which is great.
Yes, and imagine this: we are 14 races in. Up to about 3 or 4 races ago, it was Isaac Hadjar, everyone's rookie of the year. Fianchu is now saying what we all probably believe, which is Gabriel Bortoleto is the new rookie of the year contender for all of us. Not to say that Isaac Hadjar has not done well, I would say,
Yeah.
but Bortoleto has also come into play, especially when you think of it that it's a Sauber. It was a car that was last in
Yeah.
last year's constructors championship. And if I can just switch gears, Somil, and I just go back again, a rookie, I would say, at least when you compare him to Lando Norris. Okay, uh, do you think Oscar Piastri is justified in being disappointed despite having the world championship lead by 9 points, despite recovering still to finish in second place?
Of course, right? Of course. Wouldn't you be disappointed if you did everything right and didn't get the win, as you put it, which is absolutely fair? He did everything right. I think the start, very hard to get past Leclerc, especially given how good his lines were and how well he placed his car. But apart from that, pace was great. Just a very tough circuit. And I think that's just what modern Formula One is, and this sort of blueprint that McLaren have set for themselves. Fastest driver gets first stop strategy. First choice strategy is always the one that's conventionally thought, and the unconventional way can work out sometimes, and that's what happened at the end. Kunal, I think the frustrating part, which I hope he doesn't think about, is that it could have been a 23-point advantage, which is now a 9-point advantage for Oscar only, and these sort of fine margins, 7 points either way, is what we love watching Formula One races for, and I still think he lost it only by very little. Like both strategies did converge at some point. So I hope he doesn't think the way we have to think as storytellers. Because if he thinks about it, that oh, it could have been a 23-point advantage, it's now only 9, he will feel bad. But pace wise, performance wise, which is what he often refers to, top class again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think he probably is just he's been smiling, laughing. He said it was an entertaining race, if nothing else, and he knew that McLaren would always choose a race win for the team over anything else. I'm loving that in the chats, in the comments, Hadjar and Bortoleto are bringing up a lot of comment battles, comment warriors out here. Fianchu saying Gabby has the same trajectory as George, F2 champ to performing in a midfield back marker. I'm pretty much seeing Joe for the first time. Hadjar is faster, Bortoleto smarter, better, just like in F2. Well,
Hmm.
great observations from everyone. Not that I'm agreeing or disagreeing with any judgment, just reading out the comments. But on PS3, I think he's also got that mental strength to know, you know what? I know I was faster in Silverstone. I know I was faster in Hungary. And I know that's going to bother Lando Norris more than anyone else. But the truth is, he was the one who should have had those 7 extra points this race weekend. Do you think that desperate right front locking move he tried to pull off on Lando was a little too much on the edge, because McLaren came and told him, "Remember how we go racing." Do you think it was on the edge? Do you think it was justified?
I think it's fair, wasn't it? It's just very similar to what it was in Austria. That's the limit. Anything beyond is tough. But he had to give it a try, I feel.
Yeah, and like he said, you never know when you're going to get the shot. So the time you feel that you are closest is when you should actually give it a shot. So that's what happened. Uh, the team actually told him, good summer break is coming up, we need a break, you need a break, we've been leading both the championships. Very dry message. He did not respond to that radio message, and sort of said whatever he did after the race. And another driver who will benefit from the break is Lewis Hamilton. Again, what happened to him? It was just he got Fernando Alonso in strategy. Whatever Ferrari were trying to undercut and bring him up, they were just unable to make any progress because Fernando Alonso had nicely held the field up out there, Sommel.
That is so. That is amazing. You need a disruptor, and Alonso was precisely that. But yeah, tough race for Lewis overall. Couldn't make a lot of progress. I think he fell down a few positions while making a pit stop and then gained them back up. So that's why it was exciting to see Lewis Hamilton battling. But it wasn't really great progress overall. In the end, they weren't really the big winners. I'd say the big winners have to be Kick Sauber. They have to be Aston Martin from this race. Racing Bulls as well, although I think they'll feel slightly disappointed. But most importantly, Mercedes with George Russell.
But one thing, you said
And
Racing Bulls will be disappointed.
slightly,
Liam
right?
Lawson
Because,
was the best finishing Red Bull powered or Red Bull engineered car. He finished eighth
well, but
ahead of Max Verstappen on merit. He wasn't told to give position to Max. He finished 3 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen on, I think, what was a fantastically delivered race. Isaac Harja was very upset at Lawson scoring points. By the way, he said, we do all the hard work, and the other car has
Ah,
gone and scored all those points. And just from a strategy point of view, Max Verstappen did a two-stopper, but Liam Lawson beat him on a single stopper. So a mix of single and two stoppers in the top 10. So I think Racing Bulls had a fairly decentish race, Sommel.
how would you reflect on it if you were racing bulls? Honestly,
I would say beating everyone that's there on track, whether it's Max or Yuki or whoever, we've beaten them, and I think that's what I would reflect on it as. Liam Lawson has now finished eighth in consecutive Grand Prix, which is good. We want to see him recover as a driver. That's what Racing Bulls is also there for uh, for what do you say, honing young talent
yeah.
for Red Bull Racing. And I would say more than Racing Bulls, Red Bull Racing would be disappointed because Max Verstappen only ninth on a circuit we said he could struggle on. He struggled here last year, but somehow he was 72 seconds behind the race winner. Can
Wow,
you imagine? 72 seconds.
what a tough race. What a really tough race. I think at some point we'll have to have a discussion about, is it gone or what? But yeah, it's a tough weekend for Lewis
And,
Hamilton.
and just to add, we usually keep saying, yeah, if the race was 3 laps longer, Oscar would have won this against Max, right? Sorry, Oscar would have won this against Lando. If the race was 3 laps longer, Max Verstappen could well have been lapped by Lando Norris. That's what could have happened. That's how close, because Antonelli in 10th was lapped. Okay. So that was pretty much that. But any closing thoughts? Any closing comments? We had both the Saubers made a false start, which is very strange, moving before the signal. And then Bortoleto was okay, but Nico Hulkenberg got a 5 second time penalty. And just puzzles me. I mean, he probably moved a millimeter, but that's what the sensors do. They pick it up, they report you, you get
Yeah.
investigated, and you get a 5 second time penalty. So again, wrong place or right place, wrong time in the case of Nico Hulkenberg Sommel.
And Bortoletto got away scot free, and that helped him out with scoring the points. So I think crazy weekend overall. But just a closing comment to end on, it is about McLaren. 9 years without a win for McLaren after 2012. They had to wait so long for Daniel Ricciardo to come home and break that drought at Monza 2021. In the following year, in this last year since Hungary, they've had 16 race wins and are now up to 200 Grand Prix victories. If there's one thing to close on and if there's one thing to celebrate, it's the fact that the best team has won again, and they won by quite some margin. So kudos to McLaren. 200 race wins is such a big milestone in Formula One, and they've done it, Kunal, and they've done it with a new team. In fact, I read a stat somewhere. I think it's the first time since the Prost and Senna era that they've gotten three, or was it four 1-2s in a row? I'm
I,
not quite sure of the
I,
exact number.
I believe this was their
Third in a row,
third in a
fourth in a
row.
row.
It's the fourth in a row.
Austria, UK, Belgium, and Hungary. Four races in a row, four 1-2s.
Finally, McLaren are
Wow.
literally maximizing, 1-2 finishes, which is what, remember we said, it's one thing to have a dominating car, but it's another thing to dominate the sport altogether. And that's what's probably happening with McLaren. Exoteric is saying Max would throw a fit if he got lapped. I imagine that would be the point. He would just go and play with his GT3 team as Franz Hermann. How many more pole bottles has Leclerc in him? Four. Well, I wouldn't really call that a bottle from the car itself. Okay, it was the car only and not from the car. I don't think it was Leclerc who bottled it by any standards. You said 200 races. It's also Max Verstappen's 200th race with Red Bull Racing. I can't remember the last time it was so bad for them, although it was probably
Yeah.
Singapore last year or Hungary last year. And GP actually apologized, or maybe it was Lauro Mekies apologized, saying, "Sorry, Max, we did not give you the car you deserved, but thanks for trying as hard as you did." Can you imagine F1 teams that have given such dominant cars also end up apologizing to drivers, because clearly drivers also say a big thanks to the team for giving me a car to dominate
Yeah.
as I have. But yeah, so that was pretty much it from this race. Lots of strategy, lots of fun talking to you and Chetan for the F1 official broadcast for Fan Code Sawmill. And now, are you excited that there's a summer break, or do you want to race next weekend?
Oh, I would love a race next weekend, but yeah, there are cool things happening. We're doing an event in Mumbai as well, 10th of August. So make sure you guys sign up for that. Tickets will be open soon. So follow the Inside Line F1 podcast on social media to keep in touch with that, and also on YouTube. For now, I think, guys, it's a happy end. It's been quite a weekend, and it's been a lot of fun speaking to you guys. But yeah, 3 weeks without Formula
Your
One.
driver of the day? Let's do that.
Oh,
Last one.
driver of the
Like F1
day,
says, oh, closing in 3 laps.
Oscar Piastri.
He's got
Or
8
Fernando
wins.
Alonso.
Come on,
Fernando Alonso. Yeah,
choose one.
Fernando,
Lando.
Fernando.
Okay, Fernando. Best. He jumps 4 positions in the drivers' championship, by the way, to 11th place with this race result that he's had. So Fernando Alonso. I am wondering. I would say Bortoleto. Like you said, scored in 3 out of the last 4 races. He jumps Yuki Tsunoda in the drivers' championship. So maybe I would take Bortoleto to be battling against Alonso, to be battling against Verstappen, to be beating Nico Hulkenberg on merit is who it is. Why don't you guys let us know in in those comments who your who your driver of the day was? Yes, exoteric. You can just hop onto a jet and see us in Mumbai on the 10th of August, which is a week from now. We're going to have a few guests that we're trying to line up for the show, physical and virtual. So we'd love to see you there. But on that note, 27 minutes in, which is Nico Hulkenberg's race number, we could probably end this live stream.
Yes, thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to the Inside Line F1 podcast. Catch our social media handles to see updates about the event, and we'll see you very soon. Content will not stop here, even the Formula One has stopped. So subscribe and stay right here. Bye bye.